Why do we compare slaveries? Well, every nation in the Americas began as a European colony, right? And the many different places in the Americas were colonized by different places in Europe. And in what is now the United States, there were many, many different colonizers who came in and carved out pieces of our country and subjected those pieces to different laws. And so the indigenous people who were already there, and then the enslaved Africans who were brought from Africa and their descendants, were also subject to those European laws. Now, every nation that used slavery, which was all of the nations in the Atlantic world, right, like all of the nations in the Americas, they all used forms of enslavement. And the Europeans that brought that slavery over, they all had sort of different ideas of what slavery was legally. And that matters because for many nations, so for the Netherlands, for Spain, for Portugal, for France, even for Prussia, for the Denmark, all of these nations, they sort of formed their ideas of what slavery was based on their frame of reference, which was ancient Rome. So they thought for them that enslavement would be sort of a state of being that you could move into and out of. So people who were enslaved were still considered human beings, still considered to have some rights, a limited set of rights, and were able to exercise those rights. Now, when the British come in, they change up the game. And that's what's really important here, because when the British come to the Americas, they bring what is known as the chattel model. Chattel slavery is the most economically efficient form of slavery, which also makes it the most all-consuming, pernicious, it permeates every part of our culture, our society, our economy, our religion, our language, everything, right? And under the chattel model, people who are enslaved are completely stripped of their humanity. So they no longer have human rights. They no longer have the right to life, to freedom, to their descendants, to their own children. And with this model, what you get is an enslaved underclass that is based on race. So if you have visibly black skin, that immediately associates you with enslavement. And that underclass that would be enslaved in perpetuity, which is why the descendants of the enslaved remained enslaved for hundreds of years. It really changed up the game. And once you study the comparative systems of slavery, what you learn is why our countries in the Americas are so different from each other. And what you learn is why America was different, and also why America now deals with race and racial issues differently. So it is incredibly important to kind of think of the world in terms of comparative systems of slavery, which is what I do in my book,